everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to another Conversations with Kelli podcast. I'm your host, Kelli Folsom, and I'm super, super excited to be here today with a very good friend, a member of my Art Life School community, an amazing artist, Sharon Smith. She's also been a member of my business and career mastermind for the last couple of years. And it's just been so beautiful watching how much she's grown and expanded, and just watching her go through all the things, right, on the art life journey, which is what this podcast is all about. So thank you so much, Sharon, for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is going to be so cool. And I'm really, really looking forward to sharing everything that I've learned along the way.
Yay! Awesome, awesome. And I think Sharon is so inspiring. She's so inspiring to other women artists, and she's an educator as well. So I just love that. Okay, so Sharon, I would love to just hear a little bit about where your story started. How did you get started doing the art that you're doing now?
So I taught for 26 years, third grade, not art, but I always incorporated art into my my lessons. And I always dreamed of doing something with art when I retired. So I retired in my 26th year. And I was looking forward to going into art, and I started taking some lessons here and there and ended up in a studio in Philadelphia. And I was there for about 5 years, but it was on and off. And my parents had a lot of health issues along the way. And during that time, I kind of stepped away from art several times. And I found that every time I stepped away, I kind of lost who I was as a person. And you were offering this mastermind course. At the time, I was already part of Vital Art Sessions, and I was already trying to incorporate that into my art, studio art, even though I was at an atelier. So because I felt your approach to art was so freeing, and it really inspired me, because the atelier that I was at was very stringent and strict. And I couldn't find my voice in that place, even though I learned a great deal. And when I found you, I thought her approach is so easygoing, and I could manage it without too much difficulty in changing just a few things that I was already doing. But anyway, getting back to my story about my parents, I stepped away from everything. The atelier, working, doing things with Vital Art Sessions. And then you started offering the mastermind course. And when I dove into that, it kind of saved me, because I was so entrenched in a lot of health issues with my parents, and I didn't know how to manage all of that. And I felt like I was drowning. Mm-hmm. And you gave me a focus and I don't want to call them goals, but purpose with my art. And these are the things that you needed to get done each week. And with that list in front of me, I thought, I could do this. I can break it down into steps, and I can manage this. And the more that I did it, and the more, like you always say, just push pain around. And the more I heard that in my head, I thought, I've got to just push pain around. And it kind of grounded me and helped me find my way through all the ups and downs with my parents. So even with everything that was going on with my mother and my father and family members and their health issues, I managed to, during COVID, have a one-woman show where I sold over 10 paintings just at that show that one night, and then more as the show progressed the next few months.
So was that like a first time experience for that? Or had you ever done that before?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
And I remember being on the call with you and the other masterminders at the time, and asking like, well, how many paintings do I even need like for the show? And what do I need? Like, and I remember you even just talking about the labels. I had to do the whole thing myself because nobody at this particular art center could help me because it was COVID.
Right.
So it was just my husband and myself kind of doing everything. But I took your lead and I would ask questions all the time. And then I would run with whatever that answer was for that week and get all that accomplished. But I remember you saying you're going to have at least 25 paintings. And I thought, okay, because I think it was maybe the beginning of November and the show was the beginning of December.
Right. Now
Okay.
you probably already had some paintings, right?
I did, but they needed to be like, I needed bigger paintings.
Right.
You can't have like a show of like little 5x7s or 8x10s.
Yeah.
And and I had 2 portraits that I had done that were close to finish at the atelier that I could put in there. And I had a few drawings that I could do. But so I was like trying to get all these things done and take care of my parents. And well, at that time it was my mother, and take care of her and manage her health. And we were selling her home. I was doing that. But it gave me a reason to get in front of the easel, and to learn, even while I was preparing for the show, all the stuff I learned in that show. And it was scary. But now I'm getting ready to do another show this Friday. And I'm I just feel so much more at ease now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're an old pro now at showing your work.
I'm
awesome.
Direct, but still good.
Yeah, and I know you've done other things since then too. So it's really been amazing watching you. Whenever I work with people, I don't always know the backstory or what's going on, what your day-to-day life looks like right now, and so you always like I knew a little bit that something was going on, with your mom and health stuff, and but I didn't, it's like we just don't know what that actually looks like day to day. Everybody's life is so different. So I was always so impressed by you and how, you would just, like you said, you would take it and run with it, and just go for it. And I just love that. I just think that that's so inspiring about you. Yeah.
So much. But I think you breaking it down into these pieces, like, what are you doing? Like, what is your goal this week? So on Monday, I would sit down and think, okay, how many paintings do I have to get done? Who do I have to contact? Where am I going to get this venue? I remember talking about venues with you, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. And you were like, you could even do like a library, or you could do like, you gave me a whole slew of places and things I never even thought about.
Right.
And what the good part was with this particular show in December, during COVID, was
I know. And I just love that you did that, because most people would be like, oh, it's going to be too hard. People aren't going to want to come. They're going to, it's like most people will have all the excuses, and yeah, you did that during COVID. You knew like, hey, yeah, this is, who even knows if this is going to be successful or not because of COVID. And, yeah, we're going to have to pace how many people are coming through, and everybody's going to have to wear masks, and all that stuff. Most people just be like, no, thank you. Even like professional artists and peers that I know, like once COVID happened, it was just like, okay, I'm done with everything. Just have to wait for this to be over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we don't have to wait for things to be over. We don't have to wait for opportunities to come to us. we can create our own opportunities, and that's the power of creation. We do that in our art, and we can also do that with the rest of our life and with our business. And that's what I saw you do. I'm getting so fired up about it now, because I'm just like, yes, like most people would not do that. Most people would have that long list of, I can't do it because da 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 da. And you were like, hey, I've never done this before. I'm scared as hell. It's COVID. Who even knows what's going to happen? But you did it anyway. You followed that inspiration and you followed through and did it. And it was successful. I love that.
And you said you're going to have to do a Facebook Live, which I never did Facebook Live on my artwork, maybe for me, but I learned a lot doing that, but I sold 2 paintings off the Facebook Live.
Yes.
So, I was like, this is incredible. Yeah. And then I helped the center. I helped that art center because they were struggling and they couldn't pay their lighting and heating bill. And that show helped them. Plus they had a very small COVID wedding that was coming up the following month, and they wanted art on the wall. And it was on the wall for the wedding. And I sold a piece during that wedding.
Oh.
And I think there was like 10 people at that wedding. But all those little steps that you gave me to accomplish. And I made sure that I did them all to the best that I could do them. Like you say, just do it. It's not going to be perfect, but just do it.
Yes.
Yes. And I got my website up during that time, and it was a really very productive time. And then I signed up for the mastermind again.
Yeah.
And now I can kind of perfect what I did the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. And everything just started to fall into place, because you know what, Kelli, they don't teach this at an atelier, all these things. And everything that you were teaching, I so needed to know, because you can't yes, I learned to do art, but what am I going to do with the art if I can't sell it or teach it?
Right. Now, had you been it's so true. I went to a 4-year art school, a degree granting, college, and we only had one career development class one semester. And it was so minimal what they gave us, based on what I know now, about making it as an artist is like, oh my gosh, the information, but, they didn't know either, so, they were just teaching what they knew to teach, they didn't know. But it's so true. It's like, there's very little information out there for artists. And I know myself, I had to go out and find other kind of business teachers, business coaches to supplement that education and to, educate myself as well. And then try to tweak it and make it work for, my art, So anyways, it's such a beautiful story and so inspiring. I just love it. And really, your spirit, your willingness to be a beginner in your art business, I think is so beautiful, to just go for it, which is really the thing that hangs up most artists who are trying to learn how to sell their paintings or showcase their paintings, which is so important. It's so important to be able to have a show like what you had and have an audience receive your work. That's part of that creative life cycle. And it is so incredibly important for artists. So I love that you were willing to have that beginner's mind and just take action. Instead of getting trapped in what I call the Hal Vortex, sucked into the Hal black hole. But how do I do that? And it's fine. You would ask questions like that. You'd be like, so what do I need to do? What do I need to know? But it did not, you not having all the answers right away or not knowing if it was going to go well or turn out perfectly right away did not keep you from taking action. And that's what I think is so key for everybody listening to hear. And you did it in the middle of COVID, and you did it in the middle of family crisis.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would love to hear a little bit more too about that, because you and I were talking the other day on a support call with some other artists, and you were sharing about how you were realizing like you're basically kind of giving all of your time away and then not nurturing your own art anymore. So I would love to, for you to kind of flesh that out a little bit more too, and hear your thoughts and advice on that for other women artists who are out there in that same situation right now.
Yes. And I hear this like on our calls a lot, and just like just women that that I've taught in my watercolor classes. So I was going to school and stopping all the time. I was constantly stopping my my learning to take care of my parents, and they were getting worse and worse. And I was having to spend more time with them and less time on my art. And I found the less time I spent on my art, the more I was becoming kind of unsteady and frantic. And I kind of feel that with most creative people, they are grounded in their art, and they can actually find themselves when they stand in front of their easel, or they're making music, or they're writing. So my mother had dementia, and my father had bladder cancer, and my father was in a nursing facility, and I was managing his care full time and managing my mother, who was at home with dementia, and caring for both of them. And every week we would have calls for Mastermind, and you would say, push the paint around. I would dedicate time to standing in front of my easel. And I found the more that I did that, the calmer I became. And I was able to slow down the crazy in my world, because it truly was crazy. Like I would get up in the morning and just run to the nursing facility, and then run to my mother's, run to get them food, run to and care for my own family. And you still had a daughter at home as well, right? So my daughter she was going to college, but then she was home because it was COVID. So that was still going on. And I have a husband who travels. So, and I was also selling my mother's home at the time. I was downsizing her. She was moving into a facility. She moved in the facility one day before COVID shut everything down. So I had to keep going to my easel. So I had to get like a certain practice. So in the morning, I would do all of these things for my parents. I would get lunch with my daughter, and then I would paint. And I had a show coming up.
Yeah. Well, see, because most people, I think, would be like, there's no way. My life is, life has taken over. Everybody needs me. And I just don't have time. Again, most people, I think, would say, like, I just don't have time to do that. And, maybe you felt that way too at the time. But it kind of sounds like for you, once you were neglecting it long enough, you started feeling the after effects of that.
My hands were shaking. Like I couldn't get any clear thoughts, because I became so, I was caretaker to everybody. So I would close my studio door. I have one room in my house dedicated to my oil paints, and I would close the door, and my daughter knew, everybody knew when the door was shut, I'm not answering any questions. And it would be in the afternoon, and I would paint until it would start to get dark. It was winter, and I would paint until it would start to get dark. And so that was my time. And then I would start the process all over. I would take off on the weekends because I would have to catch up with other things, or if I had a meeting at the nursing facility. But what do they say? Embrace the suck. You have to that's what I did. And I'm also a marathon runner. So I was running too. I would run, And
I
'cause
remember that.
yes. And I would do virtual races because I knew I had to stay clear-headed, and I knew I had to maintain my health. Because it was very desperate with my parents. They were desperate. And the facility that my mother was at was actually at the end of the rope with my mother, because she was very,
Yeah.
very sad and sickly. But the time that I spent at my Easel calmed everything down. And the importance of that, I cannot tell you, and anybody who's listening, I cannot tell you the importance of giving that gift to yourself, to be, I know it sounds very cliche, to be present in that moment at your Easel, just even if you line up the paint on your palette and even just, get it started. If that's all you can do that day, that's going to bring you some peace.
Yeah. And did you have days like that where that was maybe all you could do, or maybe just getting it started actually,
Right.
got you into it?
And I would, like, if I knew I didn't have a bunch of time, I would do very small paintings. Or I remember you saying, if you can't get a painting done that day, and you're not going to be able to clean something up in your studio, make way for a setup, or play with some of the stuff on your still life setup, and figure out what you're going to do next. And that was really helpful to me, hearing that, just to do that if I couldn't get the paint on the canvas that day.
Right.
But even today, like, I hear those things in my head when stuff gets crazy, and I'm like, I can't get to the Easel today.
Yeah.
Or if I can just get a drawing done or something.
Right.
So it led to more things, and it led to me, like, wanting to take more classes. Yeah. And to help my art evolve. So, I mean, it's over a year since I started that process. It's got to be 2 years now, Kelli. I've lost track of time. But
time doesn't exist anyway.
Right.
It's okay.
But if I can impress anything on anybody listening, get in front of your Easel or your sketch pad or whatever, whatever, but get there and give that gift to yourself. Mm-hmm. It is a gift.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that only we can do for ourselves. I think so often we tend to, wait for other people to bring an opportunity to us, or to help us feel better, or to do something nice for us, or to acknowledge us. And yeah, it's like all those things are great and they feel great, but it really comes down to us taking care of us, and I think women, especially as women, we can struggle with that, because I think most of us women, I know myself included, because I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and it was always like, don't think about, it's almost like it's selfish if you wanted to do things for yourself,
Yes.
Take care of everybody else is how I was raised, help everybody out, everybody in the family. And it was always the girls, it was always the girls who, that was really, like my brother never had to do anything like that,
That's absolutely true. And I just remember my mom caring for everybody else all the time.
Yes.
And then when it came to her end of her life, she had, like, things that she always wanted to do. She wanted to learn fencing, and she wanted to go on a cruise, and she never got to do those things. And, I just feel that's so sad. And, she really cared for so many people in her life, which was lovely and wonderful. But I always wondered what she would have done had she given that gift to herself. But it was a different time then as well.
Right. Totally. And I totally agree. It was a totally different time, and she could have done those things. Like, I think what you're finding now is like, oh, I can actually do both, and I can do it with balance, and my life's not over yet. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
feel like I got to get up in the morning and get started, and I write in my journal, and then that helps ground me. And then I got to go through all the steps of the day. And but having that, this is how much time I'm going to give to myself this week is
yeah,
really important. And
right.
that's what I learned, especially in, Vital Art sessions and the mastermind. That was
Yeah.
so
And
valuable.
yeah. And then when you were spending time at the Easel, like how much time are you talking? I'm sure it fluctuated, but
It
just for
did.
everybody who,
So Tuesdays and Wednesdays were usually my day where I would spend approximately 2 hours
yeah,
each setting. Um, but other days, I maybe an hour,
yeah,
or maybe I'll finish up something a couple other days, or do a small thing, or I might have even just been able to get a watercolor in on Friday, you know.
yes.
But Tuesdays, Mondays, I would give a lot of my time to squaring away paperwork, thinking about what I was going to paint that week.
Yeah.
And just
Getting prepared. Yeah.
yes. And then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, I would go at it, maybe finish up some minor details on those paintings or start something new and small.
And I love that you're, really playing this out for us, because I think that this is also a common misbelief or I don't know, limiting belief or misunderstanding that some people have, that, oh, I can't dedicate 9 to 5, to my art, or 8 hours or 10 hours. And, so that just means that, I can't really be an artist. And I have to say that is such a fantasy. I mean, even for professional full-time artists like myself, like, not very many artists are doing that I know of, where they're like, I'm in the studio at 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. and all I am ever doing is creating and painting and, or sculpting or whatever. So I love that you're showing, like, hey, 2 hours a day is enough, or 2 hours a couple days, 1 hour doing a little watercolor sketch, basically keeping it greased, keeping in the game, keeping momentum building. And it doesn't have to be this all or nothing proposition, and look at everything that you've accomplished by doing that, by saying, yeah, I can give 2 hours. And you also chose to carve out that time, and schedule it and plan ahead and schedule it. And I think that that's such a great piece of advice for everybody as well,
And I would leave my piece that I was working on the easel and lit. So, and sometimes at night, I would just come in here and stand in the doorway of the studio and look at my piece to see what I was going to work on the next day. And then I would just go to bed.
Yeah.
But I would leave the light on my piece so I could see, what I liked about it or what I wanted to change about it.
Right. Because sometimes doing the work isn't always like, I don't know. I was raised very like a lower middle class, labor, work hard, physical labor type of family, so it's like the idea of work was always like, oh, doing the thing, working, but that's such a beautiful example of, like, looking at the painting before you go to bed, because your brain,
Yes.
as you're sleeping and resting and, just getting that in your mind before you go to sleep is such a beautiful way to do it, because the next morning it's like, oh, okay, it's fresh on your mind, and your mind's had time to kind of problem solve and plan and come up with ideas. And, that's how creativity works. So beautiful.
Yeah. So this has just been so fantastic. And then I've tried to take that and use it in my watercolor classes that I
Yes.
women. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that was the last thing I was going to ask you about, was your classes that you're doing, your teaching. How's that going, and what you're doing with that?
So I have one coming up actually at the place that I'm having the show on Friday. So they're going to advertise my watercolor class. I'm going to do a watercolor retreat there. That'll be in September, but I'm also doing some online where I'm going to do a watercolor retreat, 2 hours each Thursday for people who sign up. So I'm really hoping that I can take what I've learned here and put it into my classes with the women at the retreat. So
Totally.
forward to like turnkeying that and seeing where that goes.
Yeah. I'm so excited for you. And, and we're all of us together, working together, are making the world a better place and improving the quality of other artists' life and women as well, because just because you hit a certain age does not mean that like, oh, you can't do anything, or there's not another chapter in your book, or there's not another part of your identity that is like, there's still part of your identity there to explore and to discover, and to grow. And you're such a beautiful example of that.
Thanks so much. But
yeah,
so much, and I do think like later in life is a great time to do this. You know more about yourself, I think, as you get older, and wiser, hopefully.
Right. Older and wiser. And how beautiful that, you're able to have that prior part of your life, and have your beautiful children, and you have your beautiful marriage. And, it's like, so that is wonderful and beautiful. And now you're adding this in, and now's the perfect time for you to add that in. So anyways, I'd love to for you to tell me where the show is, the location, so we can put it in the description.
Okay, so the show is it's called the Markheim. So it is in Haddonfield, New Jersey, and the reception is Friday at from 7 to 9. And I'm doing it this time. I'm doing it with a friend of mine, Katie. She's going to be having a lot of her graphite work and things in the show. So, and I met her at a class and we hit it off, and I'm showing her how to do a show now too.
I love that. I love that so much. So you're making new connections and new friends, and it's like, this is just enriching your life. And I just see you having so much purpose and meaning now with your art, and it's just amazing. So where can everybody find you, Sharon, online?
So I'm at Sharon Ann Studios on Instagram, and I'm at www.sharonannstudios.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Sharon Ann Studios. And that's where I am.
Yay. Awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes for everybody below so they can look you up. And everybody follow her, find her work, and give her a follow. And and if do you have one last thought or piece of advice that you would like to share with other women artists out there before we go?
Give yourself a gift of time and find a way to get in front of your easel, even if it's just for a short bit of time each day. Give yourself that gift.
Beautiful, beautiful. Sharon, thank you so much. This has been so inspiring to me. So thank you. This has been a gift to me. And it's also a reminder to me as well, for all of us to keep that time, make that time, give that gift to ourselves. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been such a joy. Huh?
We're born to be creative.
Yes. Yes. It's so beautiful. Okay, my dear. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the community. Okay.
Yes. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, beautiful.